Oops. I can't wait to be done with this biome. That's why I'm trying to focus on getting it all knocked out. That way we can just cut it away. I guess while we're putting blocks here, we're not getting magma cubes. Oh, we're not getting skeletons anymore either. Oh, we got rid of all that too. I mean, entropy. What are you? And then it was in her behind. glass in butt. Typical. Slabs. I do have to go out and do some slab work on the ceiling out there. I'm probably going to put this here. Worst thing happened to me was it dislocated your hip sledding with your aunt. Spent 2 nights lying in the hospital bed with the leg up in the air. That's crazy. Yeah, I never did anything like that. I got hit by a car. Spent a long time in the hospital, but that's a whole different story. 2 weeks. Oh, you said 2. I assumed days. Well, that's still no fun either. Guys, I missed telling the joke to EJ last night. I wanted to call him back and tell him the joke, but he started shutting his PC down. He got really mad there towards the end of Tarkov. The joke probably wouldn't have landed well, but I really wanted to tell him that joke. I'll save it for next Tuesday. A friend tried to prank another friend by holding a pencil above a chair right before they sat down. Ah! No, Entropy, no! No. I can't think of that. Nope, I'm not gonna think about it. Nope. American childhood sounds amazing. It's not the same anymore, Diamond Yoshi. And with coronavirus, it's not ever gonna be the same. There's been a lot of events in the last 25 years that have changed being able to play outside. Unfortunately. It's not like it used to be, dude. You still have pencil lead in your right hand? I got some pencil lead in my arms. We used to stab each other with pencils and it would break off. But it wasn't lead, it was actual graphite. We didn't have lead pencils when I was a kid, I don't think. Or the school did, but we didn't because you couldn't buy them anymore. We're built different or something? No, it's not that. It's just things. Diamond Yoshi, ignorance is bliss. The less you know, the more careless you can be. The more you know, the more you're scared about everything and the more overprotective people get. It's pretty much how it comes down to. I remember my mom, I could go into a whole conversation about things, but it's whatever. But yeah, the less information you know, ignorance is bliss. That's all. That's why being a kid back then was so much fun. Because you didn't know half the shit kids know today, or had to worry about. Like you can type your address into Google right now and see where all of like the convicted child abusers are or whatever. You couldn't do that 25 years ago. And seeing how there's so many nowadays, there was just as many back then too. You just didn't know. But now that people know, all of a sudden it's too scared to go outside anymore because something could happen. You could get abducted, blah, 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 blah. It still happened back then too. It's just, you know, the world, the more information people know, the more scared people are. Hi, Pixel Dick. How are you, bud? The free range kids. Yeah, something like that. I'm pretty sure Entropy, that's going to come back. It's got to loop around though. How's everyone doing? I'm fantastic, my friend. It's good to see you in here. I hope you're well. I think it'll come back, Entropy. It just has to take a couple generations. Because each generation is fueled by the want of another generation, the older generation. So you got to think. Kids my age, our parents are boomers. The boomers had ideals and dreams that their parents couldn't have because those parents were the ones that came out of the Depression. So the next generation kids are all free-spirited. I can do whatever I want, blah, 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 blah. And they're lazy, entitled, and everything else, which will end up tripping up the next generation, which will cause them to regress and say, hey, we need to take a step back and be a little more controlling of our own future. And they'll treat that future generation a little differently, which will then cause a reset. Does that make sense? It's a cycle. But I honestly believe that's going to happen. It's just going to take 25, 30 years. We're not going to see it. we're not going to know what happens, Injury. We'll be gone. Well, we can hope. But it always takes a generation to learn from the last generation. Unfortunately, that's like 15, 20 years. Which is why you always hear stuff about setting examples for people, because you want them to do that. But at the end of the day, you know, the younger generation's always hard-headed. You can't tell me what to do. You're old. I'm young. I can do whatever I want. Everyone has said that to somebody at one time in their life. And then you grew up, you're like, oh, shit, I should have listened to them. Gen Z's not bad. I didn't say they were bad. No, Pixel Thick, I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that at all. See, that's you putting words in my mouth. I never uttered anything like that. What we were talking about earlier before you came in was how we used to be out as kids, 8, 9 years old. We used to be out all hours of the night, have to be home, you know, before sundown. There wasn't all this worry and stuff about everything. There wasn't all this 24/7 information and all this other stuff. And I was mentioning how ignorance is bliss. Because the less you know, the more careless you can be because you don't know about that. So I was saying that that's why Gen Z's got it rough, because they don't have the freedom and the liberties that the generation before them had growing up. Well, Minecraft, you got to get banned, my friend. So that's what I was saying. They just have it. They have it harder than us. Does that make them worse? No. But it does. That's where you get your generational gap. That's why it kind of seems like they're a little. They're not gonna be. They're gonna lack some street smarts, I think, as they get older, that the generation before them had the advantage of. Because they're being over coddled because of all the information that's out there now. So yeah, I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying it's just different. Yeah, Pixel Thick. Exactly. But nowadays, back then when you were that age, if you took a kid that age now and put them in your position, they wouldn't know where to go. They wouldn't know how to get home. They wouldn't know how to get in contact somebody because they need all of this stuff that we have nowadays. So they lack a lot of the street smarts that we have. Does that make sense? It doesn't make them worse. That's just how it is. And I was telling Entropy what's going to happen is the generation moving forward always gains advantage from the generation of before because the generation in between tries to make sure that doesn't happen again. So it's going to be a cycle. Also, Pixel Thick, make sure you keep it PG-13 in here. That was your one F word. I'm going to delete that, but you're still able to talk in chat. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying, but at the same time, no, you're fine. At the same time, that's the point I'm trying to make. It's It's not that they're bad. It's just a massive misunderstanding and a lack of knowledge. Because there's a lot of smarts that they're not going to get. And it's because of the information that's out there. Like there was a viral video I saw on YouTube where one of the parents of a kid took a rotary phone and said, here's the phone we used to use 20 years ago. Dial a number on it. And they're looking at this rotary phone and they're like pushing buttons in between and they're confused as to what this thing is. And not that you need to know that, but that just gives you an idea of like the separation that you've got in generations. When you pantomime, when you pretend like you're calling somebody pixel thick, you do this. When kids do it nowadays, they do this. It's a whole different thing now, pixel thick. And it's crazy to think about that because it's a different world they're being raised in. And that's just how it is. Yeah, exactly. But pixel thick, here's something I'm going to follow up with, which is why people say what they say. There's a difference between ignorance and there's a difference between laziness. If someone comes up to you and says, I don't understand A, B, and C, and you say, well, okay, we'll do this, this, and this, and they say no, that's why people get upset. Because of the generation having access to everything at their fingertips, they don't want to go through those extra steps to figure things out on their own. They just want to be given the information. Which is why people are dumber, dropout rates are higher, and things like that. People aren't trying anymore. Why should I learn about what happened 200 years ago when I can just Google it? That's where the disconnect is happening, and that's where the hate is coming from. Because we had to manually learn all that back in the day. But now you can just Google it and you know everything. So that's where the hate is coming from, and I can see that. It's totally justifiable. Which comes back to what I was telling you. If you put a kid in your shoes X amount of years ago and said find your way back home, they're gonna go, can I use my phone? No, you can't use your phone. Well, they're screwed. They're never going to find their way back because they don't know how to look at landmarks. They don't know how to use cardinal directions. They don't know how to read a street that's got numbers and know what the numbers mean. They don't know because they didn't have to know. And that's what's going to happen in the next generation is that they're going to have to put the brakes and say, hey, we didn't know this growing up. You get to learn, and that's where the cycle is going to reset. And then you're going to have, it's the next generation, not right now, not Z or whatever, but the next generation is going to be similar to the one in the 70s. Because the parents are going to be like, look, we had it easy. You're going to have to start doing things like this. And the kids are going to go, no, we're going to rebel. And you're going to have a decade similar to the 70s coming up where all the kids were rebelling. And then, you know, all of a sudden people were standing up and it was cool to be a rebellious and everything else. And that's probably going to happen here in the next 20 years or so. And then those kids are going to grow up and say, whoa, we were too wild. We're not going to have our kids do that. And we're just going to be in a circle again. You know? It's bound to happen. You just got to wait it out. That's what's sad about it. You just got to wait it out. It's not going to instantaneously happen. Yeah, Miss Jessica. And that's where the disconnect happens because people are too lazy to learn that. Hey, let me teach you what to do in case you can't use your phone. No. Just tell me how to get home. But let me teach you. No, I don't want to learn. So it's like, okay, well, I guess you just SOL then, huh? That's why people, I mean, you can also liken that to people cheating in single player games. Why would you cheat in a single player game? Just play the game. They don't want to. They want to cut to the end of the game. They want to get to the stuff, the good stuff. They don't want to go through the story and learn everything. They just want to look up everything on the internet and find out what to do and just go from there. That's why games now aren't the same as games back then. There's a whole bunch of things, and it's just the way it is. So I can see why people you know, go, oh, Gen Z, a bunch of lazy people, blah, blah, blah. I totally get that. It's just a generational thing. But it's better to be understanding and be willing to help than to just write them off completely. Because if you write them off completely, like think about it. Anybody who's between the ages of 25 and 40, what do your grandparents really like you? Or do they think you're just kind of a little punk? You know? Think about how your grandparents think about you. Some of them might like you, but a lot of them don't like you because, you know, you don't know what a day's hard work is. You didn't have to wake up at dawn and milk cows, and you didn't have to walk to blah, 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 blah. You know, trust me, it's the same thing. Well, Sleepy, you know what I mean, dude. Come on. You know what I mean, man. Mine are dead, too. I'm just trying to make a point here. Yeah, entropy, and that's where all the and that's why I said it's justified. I can see where they're coming from. It's justified in their mind, but it takes a level of understanding. Each generation is stubborn to the last and stubborn to the one in front of it. So which is why some generations don't want to give other ones a chance because they don't care. They're in their generation. You know, screw you, I'm living my life. And, you know, that's just how it's going to be. When I was living with my grandmother, I lived with my grandmother 13 years ago. And I was working as a manager at a Dollar General. And I didn't work the same hours every day. I had to open the store. I had to close the store. Sometimes I had to work mid-shift during the shift changes. My grandmother used to get mad at me because I wasn't awake at the same time every day. She was like, you should be awake at 6 o'clock every morning. And I was like, I can't do that. If I was up at 6 o'clock every morning, if I had to close that night, I'm going to come home at 2 o'clock in the morning and wake up in 4 hours? That doesn't make any sense. So she used to get really angry at me and call me lazy because I wouldn't wake up at the same time every day. And that was just a generational thing. I was still working and paying my bills, and I was taking care of things around the house. I just wasn't doing it to her standard. She was a registered nurse for 50 years. She worked at the hospital. She worked the same hours every day for 50 years. I mean, of course, when you do that, you're going to get into a habit. But when you're working retail, you can't do that. You just sit in front of a computer pushing buttons all day long. I don't know what real work is. My grandma talking about me working in the info sector after learning for a decade and still learning new things every day. Yeah. And you got to think though, Pixel Thick, it's just a generational thing. But at the end of the day, if you're paying bills and you're providing for yourself, then, you know, more power to you. You know you're doing well, but the older generation thinks you're just being lazy because you're just pushing buttons all day long. Even though I have it in the background as I work, there's nothing wrong with that either. If my mother was more understanding of what I did back in 2011, and if what happened didn't happen, I would be on a different course in life right now. Do I regret what happened? No, because I don't try to live life with regret. Things happen, and what you learn from that and how you shape moving forward affects the rest of your life. I wouldn't have you guys here right now. I wouldn't be able to stream right now if what happened back then happened. So there's no use in trying to live in the past and think what if and everything else and feel bad for that kind of stuff. So you kind of have to carry that with this generation we've got right now. You got to think there's a lot of kids who are missing out on a lot of stuff, and us adding more stress to their lives isn't going to help them in the long run. There are kids who have missed graduation because of COVID. There are kids that have missed hanging out with friends, sweet 16s, all kinds of stuff. And you have to understand, if you had that, then you know it sucks to not have fun and be a kid. So there's gonna be some attitude back and forth. So what we can do is give them the benefit of the doubt, try to work with them, but that's where I draw the line. If they don't want to work with you, then, you know, F you, you're gone. Move on to the next one. Yeah, pixel thing. It is what it is, dude. But I don't think you can make millions on TikTok. Last I heard from somebody, TikTok's not paying out a lot of money right now, and there's a lot of people angry about that. That's why a lot of the bigger TikTokers are funneling people to like YouTube and Twitch, because that's where they're gonna make more of the money. TikTok's great for exposure, but I mean, you can make money on it, but you can't make millions, I don't think. There's no one living a life of luxury only because of TikTok. They got like an OnlyFans, or they're pushing their YouTube, or they've got something else going on. There's a YouTuber, Pixel Thick, that did the math the other day, and they said that on their channel on YouTube they make about 9 cents per 1,000 views or something like that. 9 cents per 100 views, but on TikTok it's 2 cents. Maybe it's 1,000. 9 cents per 1,000 versus 2 cents per 1,000. So if you get 1 million views on TikTok, you're making, you know, 20% of what you would on YouTube. So if you can get 10% of that over to YouTube, you might actually make the same amount of money with your YouTube content than you will with your TikTok content. There is no way to gauge that with Twitch. There is no like price per view or anything like that. It's all based off of subscribers and stuff. I know because of the Twitch leaks that happened last year, I know that there are people with close to 1,000 viewers that I made more money than in the last 2 years. Granted, in the last 2 years, I only made $60,000 on Twitch, which is about $30,000 a year, but I made more than people with 10 times my viewership. So that's completely based off of what the streamer provides and what kind of content they produce. Pixel Thick, no. A lot of people who cry that, you gotta think, man. There's 3 sides to every story. There's one person's side, the other person's side, and the truth. You can't get instantly demonetized. It's a 3-strike rule. And you have plenty of time to fight those strikes, and you have plenty of heads up when you get the 3rd strike to save yourself. The people who are whining and crying about getting immediately demonetized were just ignoring all of the warning signs and stuff and weren't doing anything about it sooner. But what they did was they found that Jimmy Jojo, who did the same thing 6 months ago, got a sudden spike in support through their Patreon and stuff, so they're going to do the same thing too. They're going to whine and cry about it, that way they can get a bunch of support to their Patreon, and then all of a sudden they're going to have their videos monetized again. That's a money grab ploy, Pixel Thick. That's not 100% true. It happens, but it's not. What you just said there is completely sensationalized. Well, no, Pixel Thick, and you had plenty of time to dispute it and have ads put back on it again. You can do that. You're well within your power to do that. I've got 4,000 videos on YouTube. Trust me, I know. You're preaching to the choir, bud. I've been uploading YouTube videos onto YouTube for 12 years now. I know how it all works. But the people who come out and cry wolf like that are just trying to get you to go to their Patreon and support them on Patreon instead. Because they can make more money off of you per month on Patreon than they are from you watching their 5 videos they put out per month. Oh, I know, but I'm just letting you know. That's just how Pixel Thick. One of something you can look into that's actually really hilarious. Some of the bigger streamers on Twitch. I don't know how truthful it is, but there's a tin hat foil theory going around that some of the larger streamers are getting 1 and 3 day bans on purpose. Because what happens is when they do their comeback stream, their viewership doubles and they can make more ad revenue off the people that come in. they're getting banned on purpose because they can get a spike in revenue from their return stream. Because that first 1 day, 3 day ban doesn't actually hurt them. So when you go looking into research about that and you think about that, what I just said about YouTube makes a lot more sense. You say it's actually genius, but that's exactly what they're doing. There's a Just Chatting streamer who was on Facebook for a while who recently came back to YouTube. His name is back to Twitch. His name is Disguised Toast. He recently got banned for 3 days, but he got banned for copyrighted content, and he had the strike against his account done on purpose. He has proof. He messaged somebody and said, "Copy strike my stream." And they said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Yes." And they did it, and he got banned. He literally did it on purpose to prove how easy it is to do. So there's a whole rabbit hole you can get into about that kind of stuff. And what they're doing is they're using their comeback streams to generate revenue. But they're also doing it to show exploits. Hey, Twitch, do something about this. Because your little Joe Smo 20 viewer stream who gets banned doesn't have enough power as a 25,000 viewer stream. But if a 25,000 viewer stream can point out a hole in your system, it makes the company second guess. They're like, wait a minute, maybe people are actually doing this maliciously. We should do something about it. It is crazy. It is crazy. And, you know, it happens all the time. So yeah, I wouldn't, it's hard, man. Content creation and stuff like that is hard. And the last thing I want to do is lie to my people who watch my content and who support me. But there are people that do it all the time, because there comes a point, Pixel Thick, in your size and your popularity where you stop caring for the individual people and you're just looking at the bottom line. And although I still want to continue growing my stream and I want to become a larger stream, I hope that never happens to me. I don't want it to happen to me, and I still try to be just as honest with you guys as possible. Within terms of service, I try to be as honest with you guys as humanly possible. Because the last thing I want to do is alienate, you know, the handful of people I have that come in here and hang out. I may not know everything. I may not talk the best in the world. I may not enunciate correctly, but I do what I can. Yeah, Pixel Thick, 100%, dude. So it's fun to watch that little push and pull battle back and forth. Well, Entropy, I mean, trust me, there may come a day where I have a 0 at the end of my current viewership, and I may not be able to be as here for you guys as I am right now, but I will still try my damnedest. If you've ever been to like Ko's chat and you see how Ko handles his chat and everything, I want that one day. And, you know, I will learn from them. I will, you know, do my best to be like that. And if you ever feel like you're not getting 100% from me, let me know. I'll do what I can to fix it. I don't believe in little quick cash grabs like that. Like I've said before, I can be a meme or streamer. I can put on the extra. I can go full meme. I can do stupid shit. And I can just go balls to the wall for all the giggles and laughs and have people come into my chat and say, you should do this. You should do that. I love you. I watch you all the time. Blah, 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 blah. I don't want that. I don't want it. Because then I'm only focusing on the bottom line. I'm not focusing on growing a community. Then I just become another one of those people that just want you to give me bits or something. Maybe it's a Twitch thing? Mejan, are you still here? Entropy is experiencing the same thing you are. Are you Android or iOS, Entropy? Because it could just be an Android thing.